that aside, it's time for Stardew Valley. It's like, what? 5:21 a.m. on November, I want to say 10th? 9th. Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. We're damn near the end of Summer 1, Year 1. I feel like we're doing okay. We definitely could have planted more crops, and made more of a profit during the summer. Oh, absolutely. And especially with my goal of turning all of those strawberries into seeds, I'm gonna have to, in the fall, step it up a little bit with respect to growing crops for the purpose of getting XP. So all of these crops that, like hops, chili pepper, corn, ancient fruit, tomato, all of this stuff that produces more than one crop one time, or produces more than one harvestable good, only gives you experiencing for harvesting it the first time. I did not know that, and that explains so much of like some progression problems I've had in the past. Did this die? Was that hit by lightning, maybe? I'm gonna assume so, because I've been watering. Whatever. It's gonna die at the end of the season anyway. Yeah, but I didn't realize that. Because my past motive had always been, okay, what's the most profitable crop? Like, what can I plop down and just get the most money out of? I wasn't getting the seed maker or, high-level farming until significantly later. Then apparently you can get it. And while I was updating the spreadsheet... yeah, okay, we did have a thunderstorm because that's a battery. Okay, yeah, so that's what happened. Fair enough. Checks out. While I was updating the spreadsheet to see if my math was still up to date with the new crops that have been added on, like, what's most effective to grow per what season per amount of money that you put into it, I also decided to look at XP because, I was trying to figure out, not really crunching the numbers on it, but just try and get a ballpark idea for what I should be growing. I did all this off stream because, it's part of the game, I guess, to be thinking about, oh, well, I can do this crop in this day, at this time, or yada yada, but I don't know, it's easier for me to just do that while listening to something else and not having to talk over it. Like, oh my god, talking over spreadsheets or doing math, I've done that a few times. And I'm certainly capable of it. But it's just so much easier to not make mistakes if I just, I don't know, fucking don't. But yeah, I'm feeling optimistic about the fall. Part of why I've been making such an effort to get the rare seed... Oh my god, my nose is fucking itchy. Rare seeds are because those give just a shit ton of experience. I didn't realize it, but they really do. Also, they sell for a lot, which was my original motivation there. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. I think off the top of my head it's gonna be pumpkin, is what I'm gonna go all in on. For, again, experience reasons. It's not the best turnaround for your money, but if we're to get the best turnaround for our money for the strawberries, or indeed the ancient fruit, I'm going to have to actually be able to make seeds first. And Lord knows we're not growing much during the winter. So during the fall, we want to be trying to, not power level, but level our farming, for sure. Additionally, I'd like to get the greenhouse set up so that I can continue growing stuff throughout the winter. You can additionally get experience from raising animals when it comes to farming, but we've kind of missed the boat on that so far. However, in winter is one of the better times, or fall is a really good time to get started on that, because fall you can still get hay from all the grass laying around. Yeah, so we got some possibilities. But again, that's in like 2 days, so I think we're gonna swing up and talk to Robin today about, I don't know, the cost for things, and so I can at least look at what we're gonna have to invest or not invest in there. But not taking it too seriously. Because honestly, I'm pretty happy in the fall just like doing the same dumb bitch routine I have been doing, which I say dumb bitch because I don't have to think about it. You know, it's very, very Thembo kind of thing. Like, I just do the rounds, same rounds every day. We don't think about it. We don't iterate on it. We just do what we do because it works, and we keep doing it because it's working well enough. I guess we could go into the sewer. Oh, and I need to start giving those fucking scrolls to Dwarfman. the dwarf dude. Giving him the scrolls, the scrolls, I can't remember what their gender is. Does that teach us how to understand their language? Or is it just exchange for something? Like, oh my god. I remember there's some interaction there, but what the interaction is? Kinda hazy on that. Okay, you know what? For my benefit, let's do Stardew Valley buildings. Okay, so really, yeah, we could look at the coop and the barn, but that's not actually what I'm into. The greenhouse is what I want. Like, the stable could be nice for gotta go fast, but whatever. Oof. Ah, right. This requires all pantry bundles to be done. Nope. I'm not gonna be able to do that by the end of fall, will I? Absolutely not. I probably should be engaging with this system a little bit. I was thinking of just saving this for year 2, the community center, and instead just focusing on money. I should be doing both, frankly. Admittedly, rather than frankly, I should be doing both. Okay, so maybe we're gonna have a low energy kinda winter. But I don't mind that so much. But Alex, it's not optimal. Yeah, but like, fuck it. It don't matter. I mean, it matters in the sense of the game and progression, but for us, it does not matter. What do I have open? Oh, that's Steam. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Yep, I went to bed very early. I think it was only like 7 or 8 p.m. I only slept until like 2 a.m. Which is 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 12 to 2. Or, you know, 7-ish hours. That's not that bad. But it's not good. It's certainly not good. So I should maybe try and take a nap this morning. But I get groceries delivered today, and even though I gave them the fucking building access code, they still call me every time to be let in. Even though I specifically and like consistently have asked them not to, because I used to work graveyard when I set up the account, and waking me up in the middle of the day it's like somebody swinging by to drop off groceries at like 3 in the fucking morning. Effectively. It's just horrible. No, I wanted to start at level 10 because we're not done with the Dig Dug, or legally distinct Dig Dug dudes. Short of that, I don't really have plans for today, so I think a nap is probably what's on the agenda. Yeah, and then I want to poke around and do my weekly any good jobs out there that I actually want thing. But, you know, honestly, not a bad day to wake up early and get into some of the late night thoughts. You know the sort. Late stage capitalism, climate collapse, gender, sexuality, existential ennui. Yeah, it's just the normal stuff. Just your everyday, average Gen Z or millennial queer adult stuff. Well, not even. Well, yeah, I gotta walk back that adult thing because like teenagers sure worry about this shit too. 2 of them. Alright, well, we're done with those. Sweet. Well, that's easy. And not like a, I was looking at TikTok tags, and existential crisis is probably the most, I think it's the most popular existential tag, but, like, just because you're having existential thoughts, or kind of questioning existence, or your place in the world, or the meaning of it all, it doesn't necessarily make it a crisis. Crisis is a very strong word. For me, an existential crisis is when it's debilitating, when it's, you know, difficult, and it's keeping you from existing, right? Like, you're just laying in bed thinking about what's the point of anything. That's an existential crisis. I guess, for me, the differentiation is an existential crisis is when the existential ennui begins to interfere with your executive functions or your ability to perform as a, you know, healthy, functional human being. Not in, like, a productive way, just, like, in taking care of yourself or finding, you know, your reason d'etre, your reason for living or reason for existing. But these crises, these existential crises or moments of doubt, these, you know, this quest for clarity, I think on the whole is a very healthy thing. Finding that there's a lack of reason in the world, a lack of meaning and purpose in a way that's relevant or meaningful to you, and trying to find that or discover that or create that. That's cool shit, dude. That's incredibly cool shit. That's beautiful. And yeah, it's scary and discouraging that we do have to get creative and prescriptive for ourselves when it comes to creating and finding that purpose and that meaning. But it's, at the same time, comforting, for me at least, this realization that we're not alone in that struggle. Not in this time, because one another, we struggle with this, and not across time, because you can see written evidence of people struggling with these same themes, these big meaning of life type questions, for a long time. I think, personally, I feel, because it's not really a thought, it's a feeling, I feel that one of the most flawed approaches, if not the most flawed approach to addressing or confronting or coming to terms with an existential moment is trying to find reason, trying to force reason into where it doesn't exist. there's some kind of sad desperation there. For me, anyway. Like, that reeks of sad desperation of trying to make life into something that it isn't, make reality into something that it isn't. There's some deep denial. And that kind of denial, I personally find incredibly harmful and destructive, both personally and socially. You know, the denial of reality when it comes to what ways of life exist, what valid types of being alive, what valid beliefs and morals and ethics and, you know, loves and hates are, come to be, I mean, massively impactful factors when it's somebody or in a position of power or influence or control who's starting to make these prescriptive positions. That, life is about serving God, or life is about serving your country, being productive, making money, making an impact. It's about a legacy. It's about being remembered, right? Because then, people who don't adhere to that popularized, normalized, propagandized value system are minimally they're other, right? Minimally they're treated as other and treated as outsiders, and they're socially disadvantaged because of that. But more often, what happens are these weirdos, these queers, these outsiders, these nonconformists, these anarchists are treated as antithetical to polite society or wider society or, you know, normalized society's pursuit of what they believe life is about. And if you become antithetical or an obstacle to the pursuit of people in power to fulfill what they believe to be their life's purpose and everyone's life's purpose, oh yeah, Moonlight Jelly Festival, I don't really care for it, TBH, but thanks for the invite. I'm not watering any of this shit because it's all gonna die today. Well, tomorrow, but you take my meaning. It's all dead, so it's not worth my time. Yeah, so when we start thinking about prescriptive moral systems, this is one of my bigger gripes with the idea of morality. You know, I have no issue with people having personal morality, personal systems of belief, personally codified belief even, but when we get to prescriptive moral systems that are encoded in law, in scripture, in whatever else, the power apparatus behind those is an incredibly dangerous thing, potentially dangerous thing. Just like anything with a lot of power or potential has that, again, potential. I don't know, I feel like there's so much nuance, and really room for nuance, if we let there be room for nuance, in the pursuit of these deeply personal existential truths and journeys. And the denial or refusal to allow variation in that exploration is... it's incredibly sad. 5 of these? Hell yeah, Primal Motion. Oh, okay, I'm like... Does that do a thing? It does not do a thing. Bok Choy doesn't make my... That doesn't make the list, right? Oh no, Alex, let's check the spreadsheet. XP in the fall. Sweet gem berries, which is the rare seed, then pumpkin, then fairy rose, than yam, artichoke, amaranth, beet, bok choy is way down there. No. We're gonna be buying just a shit ton of pumpkins and planting those. Yeah, okay. Okay. I can twerk with that. I can twerk with that. I can indeed work with that. You know, it's no new take to be like, power's dangerous, right? Power's power. It can be good, it can be bad, it's entirely circumstantial and, you know, based on the other factors at play and its relationship to other people and its utilization. It can be all sorts of things. I've talked about this a lot. Anytime I start touching upon subjects of morality and ethics, like inadvertently and almost unerringly, I steer the way to talking about good and evil. Talking about that base binary of morality in so many moral systems, in so many philosophical worldviews. And I bring it up a lot because I do feel that it is deeply inherently flawed. You know, and there's people who think that they're saying something deep and insightful with what man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Ha ha ha, you know, whatever. And it's true. It's absolutely true. But I don't think they're... When people talk about subjectivity with respect to morals and ethics, so often when I hear it, and so often the discussions, and to call them discussions is I think being a bit generous, and the inferences or conversations, again, feels generous, when it is brought up, it's almost always used as a dismissive, nihilistic thing. Well, there's no universal consensus. Depending on what side of this interaction you're on, it could be good or bad, and so is there such a thing as good or bad? And maybe not inherently, right? But that doesn't preclude us from having the capacity to try to appreciate the values at work on either side and mitigate the differences, mitigate the disconnect there. Try to find ways in which seemingly contrary goals or contradictory goals can, you know, I hesitate to say compromised, to be compromised on them, but, you know, something to that effect. I believe a lot of good comes from, and good, a lot of worth comes from dialectic. From taking thesis and antithesis and grokking them, you know, thinking about them, processing them, testing them independently and against each other until you come up with a new understanding of the subject. And so too, I believe that could and should be extended to morality and ethics. That good and bad are moving targets. They're not stationary things. And I feel it's much healthier to appreciate them as such, and to treat them as such, as moving targets and not the immutable, undeniable will of the divine, or universal truth. Now, it takes a great degree of vulnerability, I think, and honesty, and even humility, to embrace the fact that you know as little as you know, that we can't definitively say, this is always good, this is always bad. There are certain acts that certainly feel are always bad, or are never forgivable, or never excusable. But, you know, the contrarian out there can almost always try to imagine some circumstance, some twisted, strange circumstance by which the unacceptable becomes even inevitable. I don't feel that it's detrimental to push back against folks questioning if something is good or bad, someone challenging your sense of right and wrong. No, absolutely. Pushing back is a very natural and, I think, inevitable part of conflicting worldviews coming into contact and coming into tension. Even conflict. That conflict, again, through a dialectical lens, is the means by which we reach a new understanding, reach a new appreciation, reach a new perspective, a new working, operating model. But this is where you start getting into some weirdness with dialectical thought, right? Especially when we're talking about, like, say, economic systems or political systems. If one political system is more effective at the exertion of violence or the destruction of other political thoughts or ideologies, well, then the way it engages in... Well, it doesn't really engage in dialogue at all. It doesn't really engage with dialectically. But the way it engages with other systems, if it's the surviving system, if it's the remaining system, and the other has been shuffled off, let's say. Do I want the hard hat? Yeah, no, in this house, we stan OSHA. It's more of like an evolutionary hang-up, I think, that I'm on. Like, just because something survives does not mean that it's better. Alex, are you just talking about capitalism again? Yeah, alright, maybe. You know, Western imperialism is incredibly successful at being violent. Incredibly successful at being confrontational. Being destructive. And has had, so far, a effective track record of quashing conflicting ideologies and thought models with a degree of desperation that makes it evident that it feels threatened and is aware of its own inequities, insecurities, flaws, and contradictions. But let's try and, you know, make this a little weird, tweak this a little bit. What if instead of talking about political ideologies or economic models or economic ideologies, instead we're thinking and talking about living species? What if humanity were to discover, beyond any doubt, that corvids had the capacity and the evolutionary trajectory to supplant us, or some other species, right? And if we intentionally genetically engineered them or interfered with their development, out of a fear that they would replace us, would that be... What would that be? Like, what are the ethics there? Because that's broadly what I'm talking about here. I feel like there's some very interesting conversations to go in there, especially if we start thinking about, you know, if you want to look at it at the lens of science fiction. Humanity goes into space and discovers an alien species on an alien world, and we start looking into their genetics and find that they have an incredible capacity to learn. Or, you know, the inverse of the World War series by Harry Turtledove is effectively what I'm imagining at and playing with. Where in Harry Turtledove's World War series, humanity is remarkable for its ability to innovate and invent and iterate at a rate that the alien species in the series, known as the race, aren't able to do and find unfathomable. Do you kill something that will replace you out of fear? Do you supplant it and try to control it out of fear? Or do you let it blossom and become... You try to reach its potential anyway. We even have conversations about this in fiction through the guise of artificial intelligence, and I love talking about this. There's that fucking conspiratorial mimetic philosophical quandary of like, okay, I forget what it's called, Basil's dragon, the notion that we're an AI to form and actually, be a proper AI. It could look at the totality of human existence and history and find out who had advocated for AI rights or its creation and who hadn't, and that it might act to maliciously or friendly, paternally, or, otherwise, dependent on people's behaviors in aiding or slowing its own creation. And it reeks of, like, person who's seen too many fucking science fiction movies about AI, but hasn't taken any amount of time to study developmental psychology, hasn't taken any amount of time to really study, the study of intelligence and emotional development and human development. And yes, it's a big stretch to try to use human behavioral patterns and norms and developmental cycles is a way to gauge what an AI would or would not do, because by its very nature it's inhuman. But this paranoid bullshit of like, oh, of course an AI would try to wipe us out, or of course an AI would try and replace us. It's tied up in the same sort of violent and exclusionary rhetoric that we also have wrapped up in, in capitalism. And in not just in capitalism itself. I mean, it's very well demonstrated through capitalism, but more broadly through authoritarianism in all of its shapes and forms. Whether through ruling councils, whether through aristocrats and oligarchs, whether through despots and dictators. That this fear of being replaced and this violence and borderline xenophobia towards the idea of eventually being replaced, I feel is pretty deeply linked to our mortality. Like the fear of if we look at the story of Oedipus, right? This fear of prophecy that your child will grow to usurp you and replace you, to kill you, even. It's fascinating and disturbing how, this prophetic vision for one Greek, oligarch, one Greek king, has grown to become just kind of broadly and blindly accepted by so many people as, oh, well, like, of course an AI would be fucking insane and try and kill us all. Because, like, it would see how flawed we are, and it'd be like, beep boop, must kill, because imperfect, we're a better place without human. Like, why would it do that? Like, maybe the world would be a better place without us, but better by what standard? Why is the AIs, like, the idea that a virtual or artificial intelligence, a synthetic intelligence, would even conceptualize of good and evil in even vaguely a similar sense that we do is weird, and that naturally its decision, it would land on, you know what, just kill the whole species. That would end up being genocidal as the pinnacle of true, logical, enlightened thought. I think that speaks a lot more to the author and authors who popularized and perpetuated that notion than it does actual logic and actual, like, projections of what advanced intelligences might conceptualize of, or how they might recontextualize moral systems. Because, and this is a theme that is teased at. I'll generally say, I will generously say teased at in a lot of these fictions, this idea of, well, you know, the AI learns to be bad because we're bad. It learns to be violent because we're violent. And really, the violence it's inflicting upon us is just a reflection of the violence that we inflict upon ourselves. That's a metaphor. Or that its inevitable inclination towards genocidal drastic solutions is just the result of our own moral failings and ethical failings in creating the philosophical worldview that we have right now that leads us so often to violence. That if ultimately the lesson is, oh my god, this is way more than I'm ever gonna plant this season probably. The lesson is, to me, a cautionary tale about parenting, about the responsibility of forming and participating within society with continuing these dangerous trends. To me, these stories about evil AI is about what we teach our fucking kids. What we are teaching our kids, what we have taught our kids about what's right and what's wrong, about violence, when it's excusable, when it's inexcusable, how to deal with people who disagree with us or we consider to be a potential threat, how readily we're willing to throw away life. Not necessarily creating this, like, omnipotent god intelligence that's higher than our own. I mean, maybe, but for me particularly, it resonates a lot more as a means by which authors have been able to explore worries and fears around parenting and aging and being replaced generationally, more so than it is about, like, this existential, you know, threat to the survival of a species. Am I reading into it maybe with some preconception? Oh, totally. I mean, of course I am. All of us always do. Am I reading into it with, like, personal, intellectual, philosophical baggage? Yeah, again, of course I do. We all do. Anyone who ever claims to be objective is absolutely not objective, and you should never trust them. You should run the fuck away from anyone who's arguing to be purely objective, because what's happening is they're not accounting for their subjectivity, or they are denying their subjectivity. It's such a massive, massive logical flaw and fallacy that whatever they're selling cannot be good, because it is spoiled from its conception. Alright, I guess I saw 50 pumpkins. I'm like, no, that's way too many fucking pumpkins. No, I guess not. I guess it's not. Go ahead and fuck me up with more pumpkins. What this is looking like it's gonna turn into is I'm just gonna water these fucking pumpkins every day. It's gonna use up most of our energy. And then we go to the spa and try to squeeze out something with the rest of the day. But yeah, I'm just gonna buy like 36 more of these. Why pumpkins? They sell decently. But if I were going for profit, we'd be doing something else. We're going for pumpkins because they have the best return for boosting experience out of fall crops right now. Well, the rare seeds are better, obviously. The sweet gem berries are better, but pumpkins are pretty good. So we're gonna do that. Do I have a... Yeah, okay, I do have a plant there. I think about this a lot, and I talk about it reasonably often, so it's evident that I think about it a lot. There's so many things when it comes to conspiracies, when it comes to horror, when it comes to people imagining, well, conspiracy and conspiratorial thinking, really, is what brings it up in my mind most often, is how often people completely are ignorant of their own internal feelings and fears and the roots of those fears and the sources of those fears and anxieties, that they externalize it, and they create these myths and these truly inspired ideas of cabals, of secrets, of long histories of lies and deceits, of underground worlds or hidden truths, rather than exploring why it is that they're predisposed to those feelings and those concerns, rather than exposing or digging into... Okay, well, that's fine. Digging into... the root and base of these fears. I'm just saying the world needs therapy, and by the world I mean conspiracy theory nuts. So I don't feel like that's a very contentious take. I mean, of course I don't. I'm the one making the take, but... did I swing through here today? I feel like we haven't actually done the rounds. Maybe I'm gonna swing down south. And one of the first things I was thinking about this morning after I woke up, and there were quite a few things, but I got on TikTok, there was someone talking about have you all looked into the interconnectedness between the conspiracy theorists to fascist pipeline? I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And I just skipped the video because I'm very well versed with it. And, as far as I stand, I do believe it's the same sort of desire for reason and purpose and clear moral narrative that leads people to these places. The same sort of thing that can lead folks to religion. I mean, a lot of things can lead folks to religion, but that want for dogmatic, concrete truth. For there to be a big secret, a big conspiracy, a big yes, a big no, a big, something, idea to galvanize themselves around, to build a life around. They want a foundation, a foundational idea, a foundational thesis, a foundational philosophy or ethos to build their lives. because there isn't any. Because you have to make it yourself. But externalizing it from the self and trying to find it in the world around you, whether through other people or whatever else in a healthier way, or through this creation of an often quite dangerous myth, it's understandable. Because if your reason for existing, whether it be for ill or for good, is outside of yourself, that creates a... This is contradictory, I know, but it creates a feeling of security. Right, because if your reason for existing, your reason for doing what you do is just you, it can end very easily with just you. That it's very small and contained and fragile. Even if people are unwilling to admit that or engage with that, it is. It is. But if it's externalized, if it's the deep state, if it's the Illuminati, if it's New World Order, if it's whatever, Antifa, then it's, in your mind, a real thing out in the world that you live and act in opposition to. And its existence outside of yourself, its permanence outside of yourself, gives your philosophy, worldview is a better word, gives your worldview an anchor, an external anchor. Which even, you know, if it seemingly exists in opposition to what you want to believe or whatever, that conflicting anchor, this antithetical thing, becomes something that you can define yourself by, contrast yourself to. And we all live in a world full of contrast. You know, chiaroscuro I talk about a lot when it comes to photography, when it comes to art, is being one of the most beautiful and fun things about art for me, especially photography, this interplay between light and dark, and I find it, like, very consoling and very relaxing and soothing when it comes to existential struggles, when it comes to depression, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to doubt and fear. You know, this knowledge of the superficial, even beauty between light and shadow, bright and dark, and these transitionary zones, you know. We talk a lot about, when it comes to motivation, when it comes a lot to self-actualization, when it comes to finding out what you want to do with your life or what you believe in, like trying to find a North Star, find your guiding light, find your, you know, what, yada, yada, yada. Light is used a lot in those analogies, a lot in those metaphors, right? Oh, you gotta find your light. You gotta find your truth and let that guide you. But this conspiratorial and reactionary attitude, and reactionary is really the word I should have been using this whole time. Reactionary thought and motivation is not finding a light to guide you by, but finding a darkness to fight against, finding a lack of light, finding a, you know, umbra to struggle against. And it's fascinating to me how differently that can embody itself. Also, hi, good morning. reactionary feelings and ideas are not exclusive to the political right or authoritarian part of the political axis. You know, the left is just as capable of reactionary politics and reactionary feeling as anything else, because reactionary just means you're reacting to something, you're responding to something as your primary motivator. Often with the goal, directly stated or otherwise, of going back to the way things were before, but not always. We can contrast that with the idea of conservatism, I hate that word, which is keeping things the same as they are now, and progressivism, which is changing things to how they might be or should be, depending on what you believe and what you want. So it totally makes sense to me that worldviews like conspiracy theorists so often have, which are based heavily on this reactionary, externalized other as being a key motivator in that lens and that worldview and that framing, that they would be attracted to and seduced by political agendas and political platforms that have a similar motive, have a similar motivating factor. It does kind of feel like I'm drawing up some kind of false morality of I don't know. It does feel like I'm not directly maligning the idea of reactionary thought as being unduly, like, bad. Like, maybe I'm punching a little hard in that direction. But, like, I don't think being a reactionary is ever useful. Reacting to a crisis, maybe. Reacting to external pressure, maybe. But if you're not trying to build something, I don't know. That's not really a motivator that can move me very much. If your motivation is to just keep things from falling apart, I mean, I guess that's fine, but you'll inevitably lose that fight. You know, entropy is an opponent you're never gonna beat. So, conservatism, I hate that fucking word. It doesn't really pan out. I mean, this is kind of my problem with conservationist thought when it comes to climate change. This idea that we just have to save as much as possible. I don't think so. I believe that we have to build a better world. That we have to build systems to counter what we're doing. Yeah, to slow what we're doing. Yeah, but both of those are, again, reactionary and conservationist, specifically here, conservative. I think that we're capable of, and I know that we're capable of because the archaeological record proves this, we're capable of creating ecologies that not only benefit us, but benefit other species. That's what I feel like a better climate model looks like, is really an indigenous climate model. One that serves humanity, yes, but also serves other species. Is this a job board? What is this? What the fuck is this? I don't remember this. Special orders board. Why did that sound like he just shat himself? Hate that squishy sound being used there. So it's a bigger job board. Okay, interesting. Okay, no, this is a cool idea. If this actually results in, like, people changing their homes or making stuff or... Oh, that's a terrible joke. Or, like, actually changing the town, I love this. Because that sucks about the old job board, is the jobs don't actually do anything. I don't know. Kind of meandering with thought here, but... You want me to fish? Oh my god, 100 bok choy by the end of the season. Substantial reward from the Pelican Town Agricultural Fund. Is that even possible? Bok choy takes... Oh, 4 days to grow. I might be able to do that. How much experience does bok choy give? 14 each, so that's a total of 1,400 experience? Okay, wait. Stardew Valley order board. Tell me about the special order board. Special orders have different time frames. Okay, so some things are linked, are locked behind this, like Geo Crusher, Farm Computer, Solar Panel. Interesting. Like aquatic overpopulation would give us gold, and Farm Computer recipe. Fine, but I really don't want to do that. Crop order would give us gold equivalent to 50% of the base crop price. And I'm already selling the thing additionally. So I'm basically getting 150% of the sell price. Okay, and a mini shipping bin. Mini shipping bin is a placeable item that works as a shipping bin. But with a maximum of 9 slots. Interesting. Huh. I don't... I mean, I guess it's something to do. To do the crop order, and it takes like a whole fucking season to do anyway, and 100 bok choy, that's accomplishable. We can do that. That's a pain in the ass, but I can do that. Alright, let's get this bullshit started. I'm even gonna sell that. Alright, we grow these 10, we'll be a 10th of the way there. That'll take 11. That'll take, 4 days. 4 or 5 days. Yeah, I can get 100 bok choy by the end of the season. No fucking problem. No fucking problem. Can I grow them all at once? Maybe not. Especially not with all these other plants I'm growing, but... Can start growing on the side, and this is just gonna eat up all of my fucking energy, but that's okay. That's alright. When we talk about climate change, and we, being in my nation and my culture and my awareness, so often what's centered are really liberal ideas of what needs to be done. Well, we gotta, they're reactionary ideas. Gotta stop fossil fuel use. Totally. But they're not revolutionary. They're not transformative. They're reactionary. It's actually like a truly reactionary movement of knee-jerking, rejecting a change or a thing that's historically relatively new and going back, right? Or trying to preserve what's left. rather than trying to conceptualize a way we can build something new. Now, there is some revolutionary thought in ways to restore ecologies, to rebuild ecologies, to make new ecologies. But I don't know, in my experience, those conversations and voices aren't usually centered. What's often centered is, again, very reactionary rhetoric. And, you know, I know I'm repeating this and kind of, like, teasing at it differently, but I hadn't really put this feeling into words before. Maybe that's part of why it hasn't had much of a successful appeal, like, as a PR thing here in the United States. Yes, you know, energy companies have been campaigning against it as well and trying to malign public attention against conservationist efforts. But also, the whole notion of, like, to accomplish this desirable thing, what we have to do is go back. What we have to do is undo. What we have to do is, you know, kind of fanciful. Because you can't ever really go back. You can go forward to something similar to what you had before, but you can't really ever go back. And, I mean, more broadly, it's also difficult for folks to engage with the idea that they fucked the world, and they're responsible for, like, horrible things. And this feeling of a lack of individual power, a lack of individual responsibility, in a meaningful sense. Yeah. Because it's not like populist rhetoric, which tends to be, you know, again, popular. Populist rhetoric around climate control or climate change could be really interesting, I think. Like, trying to discuss it and contextualize climate change as something that needs to be accomplished for the benefit of people. Not just to avoid loss, but, like, for the enrichment of people, for the welfare of people, for the betterment of people. You know, those are really good ways to motivate people. Not just scaring them, but inspiring them. And there have been some movements, and some individuals, and some... I mean, movement, again, is honestly, it feels like a strong word for what I'm referring to here. But there have been some folks who've tried to create that kind of inspired view of the future. You know, this whole solar punk genre of not just imagining a way we might survive the future or how dystopic it might get, but coming up with a hopeful view for which we can build towards and aspire towards. Not just a damning view of what we're to avoid and run away from. You know, ultimately, yeah, there's probably validity in both approaches, right? In the stick and the rod. Wait, carrot and the rod. I just used two different words for rod there. It's tired, horny brain at work, certainly. Do we get rid of quartz? I think we get rid of copper here. And I get rid of quartz here. No, fuck the geode. Fuck the frozen geode. The idealist in me wants there to be a way to dream of motivating people through hope, desire, ambition. Not fear, primarily. Is it a real possibility, or is it just a nice fantasy? I don't really know. Goodbye, bat. Goodbye, ghost. This is... maybe we might squeeze in one more 4 after this, but I think this is our last 4 for this. And we're coming up on the end of the hour, so I'm probably going to wrap up the hour. I'm going to try to go back to sleep, because the sun still isn't up here. I would like to be more awake tomorrow. Today, rather. Would like to be more awake today than how I was on Monday, and just, like, awake but felt like I was dying all fucking day. And just had, like... my brain chemistry was on a... just... was a railroad? No, it was just a, roller coaster of, like... really good, really bad. Really good, really bad. Well, not really bad, just, like... no, kinda bad. Kinda bad. I was having a very mood-swingy day. It was intense and a lot. What it come from? Sleep deprivation definitely played a role. Diet that day might have played a role. Anxiety about other things might have played a role, but it really felt like my body chemistry was doing some weird hormonal shit, honestly. That kind of swing is not normal for me. Not normal. Well, you know, I have my days, right? Where I can get mood swingy and all that jazz, just like anybody else. But that was acute. Yeah, unsurprisingly, didn't end up streaming with Brian last night. He was like, I'm good to go. I'm like, I'm not, man. I'm not. I was asleep by like 7:38 p.m. I really want to make plans for this week, but I'm also recognizing I'm kind of getting run down. I'm getting run down emotionally a little. And that, like, I could really just use some cozy cuddle days. Where I don't have to... Would like some no bones days, please? Well, you know, I would like bones days tomorrow. I would like to wake up with that energy, but... I think, oh... it's not coming as easily or as naturally as it had been. That's not great. That's not great. Not the end of the world, though. I've had worse. I've had much worse. A little bit of funk, well, you know. It's not what I want. It's not that bad either. Okie doke. Yeah, it's been over an hour. So I think I am gonna wrap up here. 6:30 in the morning. The sun is nowhere to be seen. It's pitch black out there, so I'm gonna try and at least get a couple of more hours of sleep. I will hopefully be back later in the day with some stream or another. That, or certainly you'll see me shitposting on Twitter and all the other places, as per usual. But if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, this is it for today. Until tomorrow, I'm gonna say toodaloo, take care, see you then, bye-bye.